Hello, everyone, and welcome back. So what's on tap for today? Well, we are continuing our POLITICON debate series. This time it's part 4 between Coulter and Ana Kasparian of the Young Turks, who I affectionately like to call the Young Jerks. Anyways, we're going to get to that in just the next few seconds. But before we do so, we just want to let you know you're watching the Dr. Nasir Shaikh Show. I'm your guest host. My name is Dr. Nasir. If you haven't done so already, we'd love for you to subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell, like, share, and follow us. Put your comments below. Tell me what you think. Let's get to part 4 of the POLITICON debate between Coulter and Ana Kasparian.
I think it's hilarious that you're sitting here saying that you care about taking care of our poor people and spending our taxpayer money on government programs that help our poor people. You've been on the record on multiple occasions talking about how much you hate the welfare state. And so you don't care about taking care of anyone. You care about lower taxes for yourself, and that's pretty much it.
Lower taxes for her, lower taxes for me, lower taxes for everybody else. Hey! That's exactly what we want, Ana.
And look, as I just tried to explain, but again, it's like talking to the old Soviet woman who doesn't grasp the free market.
Name calling is super classy.
This isn't a question of whether we take care of our poor. And I must say, immigration makes everything harder, and one of the biggest things it makes harder is the distribution of welfare. Look at all of the scams on welfare. Is that going to the poor? No, it's going to the Russians in Brighton Beach. It's going to the Cubans in Miami. It's going to the Arabs up in Michigan. One thing that immigrants, legal and illegal, really have quite a strong proclivity for that is not part of our Native American, even our Native American criminals, are massive financial frauds and government frauds. They don't consider themselves part of our kin, part of our family. It isn't that we're all in this together. America is like Disneyland to these criminals. It is ripping off all of these systems. So to say you want welfare to be distributed in a way that is useful, that helps people, that gives them, allows them to get work and jobs, is not being against helping the poor. It is being for helping the poor.
Away from the financial and economic part of immigration, which we have discussed extensively here, on the cultural piece, would America benefit from limiting or eliminating immigrants?
Well, I mean, I think it makes sense to limit immigrants. We do have, I mean, our resources are not, they're finite. So, of course, it makes sense to limit.
But just culturally, because we've done the financial economic part.
Look, I'm not afraid of different cultures, right? I'm not afraid of people speaking Spanish. It doesn't get me emotional. It doesn't make me feel scared. And I know that there are some people who feel afraid of that happening. My parents are immigrants. My dad was born in Syria. My mom was born in Armenia. I was born here in Los Angeles. And nothing makes me happier than seeing different cultural, different heritages all around me. And for some reason, there's this fear on the right in regard to different cultures. I know that you, Anne, have spoken extensively about, oh my God, English is no longer going to be the main language in the United States. That's not true. That's not true. And besides which, why does it make you so uncomfortable to hear people speak Spanish, right? And then you also refer to your own family members as settlers. Well, okay, so they got the luck of the draw and they were able to come into this country and settle without, people discriminating against them and stopping them from doing so. But who are we to say, oh, Mexicans can't come in because, as you say, you think they're peasants? I don't think they're peasants. I actually think that they enrich this country with their culture.
It's not a question of enriching the culture. Every person that comes across here, if they give a little piece of their culture and become part of Americana, the Americana culture, that's great. It's that, do we actually need that person to come in here? Why can't we have it on meritocracy? Why can't we have immigration based on merit? You need, for example, if there's something, and look, our government, we got data on every single freaking thing that you can think of. You don't think the government knows in what sector, jobs are needed? So if you realize that there's a sector or a business area in which you need a certain group of workers with a certain skill set, and you're not finding that skill set within America or American workers, then do what other countries do. Like Canada, when they need nurses, guess what they did? They just didn't tell everybody from all over the world come. No, nurses around the world, send your information, send your data, apply for a visa, put in all your papers. We'll vet you over there, in your countries. And then we'll find out, what are your educational skills? What have you done? You went in nursing. Here's where you've been. This is your school. This is how many years you have underneath your belt. You know what? Okay, looks like you can make it. We're going to bring you over here. Limited amount of visas. Fill that gap. Done. Next. Guest worker programs. And they come over. They're coming over legally. Hey, and then you can work towards citizenship if you want to put that clause in there as well. That's what we're talking about. But this demagoguery that occurs, and I guess there's some on the right. I'm not saying there isn't. I'm not saying there isn't some people that obviously just, don't want to see what they call the colorization of America. Or they say the browning of America or the blackening, whatever the stupid terms that they use. But all we're saying is we can't absorb the world's masses just like that. We have got to limit the amount of people that come into this country. Why not limit them to merits on the basis of what's needed for this country in terms of immigration rather than just an open blanket? Welcome.
We're going to get 3 questions. First of all, this sneering mocking of Americans who suddenly wake up one day and find out no one is speaking English in their neighborhoods, I think is extremely elitist and snooty. I'm quite sure you all wouldn't like it if your kids came home from school and they sounded like Sarah Palin. I think that would be a cultural shock for you. Certainly in California, most of the neighborhoods that have gone all Hispanic are black neighborhoods, and not through casual movement. One of the ways our culture changes with immigration, both legal and illegal, is there is not a lot of tolerance, as much tolerance as Americans have. You have black gangs, or rather Hispanic gangs, going into the black neighborhoods, screaming epithets, throwing bottles at their houses. The LA Times has written this up extensively. So I think it's very sneering and mocking of you to be referring to mostly African American and other immigrant neighborhoods that suddenly aren't speaking English, and they're afraid of Spanish. No, they think that their kids shouldn't be turned away from a job at McDonald's because they don't speak Spanish. That was one witness's testimony in Congress, a black guy from Los Angeles. Settlers, why does it make a difference that you're a settler? No, it isn't that we just first come, first serve. No, it's that settlers created this country. It wasn't here. And yeah, a lot of things change when we bring in particularly such large numbers. I mean, there's a reason that the main immigration restrictionist group in the country is called Numbers USA, not, Mexicans suck USA. It's that we do need to assimilate people to this wonderful country of ours where we do learn to be tolerant and not practice racism or anti-Semitism and respect one another. For those of you who think that anti-Semitism has gotten worse, the ADL does studies on this every year, and every year they find that the main practitioners of anti-Semitism are your Hispanic friends. So you might want to reconsider the mass just amnestying them all as they're coming in. No, we do have a wonderful country, and we need to take time to assimilate people, not let them live in ghettos and bring in their cultures. There's a reason they left their cultures to come to our culture, and we didn't leave our culture to go to theirs.
Great, 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 great point made by Ann Coulter right there. That they're leaving their place, they're leaving their home, they're leaving their families in some instances, they're leaving their culture, their ethnicity, their heritage over there to come to what? The American culture, the American dream. They're coming for Americana. They want to become Americans. They want a place where they be able to thrive, that they don't have to worry about being terrorized in the area, in the city that or the locality that they're in. That they have a chance to see their children grow up to be, successful, and are not and have a lifespan that they don't have to be looking over their shoulder or worrying about violence or those kind of things. But unfortunately, a lot of them, when they do get over here and they are illegal, they are there, in the dark, well, then guess what? They are being used by people of their own ethnicity, their own background, their own heritage, because they're taking advantage of the fact that they can't complain, they can't go to the police or whatever. So they're the ones that are being exploited, in many cases by their own kind, their own people that are already over here, cartels, the gang members and whatever. That's what's happening. I love the crowd, the way, it seems like on certain issues, you've got a huge clapping, for Ana. On certain issues, you got a huge clapping for Anne. So it's kind of, to see the crowd go back and forth is kind of interesting as well.
When you say the settlers created the country, are you including the enslaved Americans as settlers, or is that a separate group?
Yes, I am actually.
They were settlers?
Not settlers in that sense, but I mean, as many people have pointed out, we are not a multiracial country, we are not a multicultural country, we are a biracial country. For 400 years, this country was black and white. And we have had black people here as long as white people.
Is this a biracial country?
And African Americans, can I finish this point? It seems to have set off the crowd. Look, African Americans obviously got the short end of the stick for about 200 years. This is why I was explaining on the last panel. This is why we have civil rights. This is why we have constitutional provisions. This is why we allow, this is why we have affirmative action. It wasn't the Rainbow Coalition. It was to make up, to redress specific grievances done to African Americans, slavery, Jim Crow laws, and now suddenly, everybody's running across the border and, oh, me too, I'm part of this. No, civil rights are for African Americans. They are not for people who arrived yesterday or last week. We didn't do anything to you. Republicans didn't do anything to anybody.
Another great point by Ann Coulter. Basically saying that, yeah, okay, I think sometimes it's semantics, but if you're talking about in the initial stages, obviously, like she said, blacks got the short end of the stick because of slavery. Yes, they did. But that was in the freaking past. Can we move on from always talking about the freaking R word, the freaking S word, the freaking B word? Racist, slaves, bigoted. I mean, this is all we're talking about. Color. Is that talking about? I mean, this is just absolutely unbelievable. And for saying, and she's right, in terms of civil rights, they weren't made for Hispanics. Civil rights should be for every ethnic group. White, green, blue, black, yellow, brown, red. But the specificities of the civil rights action were because of what had happened to blacks during the slave period and Jim Crow. So when she's saying not multiracial, multicultural, in the beginning, predominantly this was a white-dominated, and there were blacks in the majority. Even now, 13 to 14% of the population is black. They say 4 to 5% of the population is Hispanic. I mean, at that point in time or whatever. So anyways, let's continue.
Okay. Okay.
I mean, there's just, wow, I don't even know where to start. So, in that long-winded rant, you proceeded to insult people in a racist way and then have the audacity to say that our immigration policies are racist or allowing more immigrants in would lead to more racism. It's absurd.
How is anything
And
I
by the
said
way,
racist?
how is what you said? You just talked about people speaking Spanish and how parents don't want to hear that because they're concerned that their kids might want to end up working at McDonald's. You're assuming that people are coming into this country.
No, you weren't listening.
Yeah.
No,
Go
there was a testimony before Congress from LA communities where black witnesses were going in saying, my kid applied to the local McDonald's, they wouldn't hire him because he didn't speak Spanish. It is mostly black communities that are being overwhelmed with illegal immigrants, and to be mocking them and saying they're afraid of Spanish people, I think is very dismissive and insulting.
Well, here's what happens in this free, hold on. You like the free market, right? You love the free market. I love the free market as well, as long as you don't have, let me finish my point.
Keep going.
Okay. In a free
Love the free market. You guys don't love the free market. You want to do everything but. You love the free market. That's why the crowd went after you, Anna.
market, of course, there will be competition for certain jobs, right? And so the most skilled worker is likely to get that position. Being bilingual is a skill. You're able to communicate. And I get it. If you're not bilingual, it makes you uncomfortable. You're not as competitive. But guess what? You know, we live in a country where you have all the resources at your fingertips. You can learn a language for free online. And so, enough with this victimhood, because I feel like there's a lot of victimhood coming from you right now, right? If you want to compete for these jobs, go out there and learn. Pick yourself up by the bootstraps. Learn a new language. There's nothing wrong with knowledge.
You know, we are.
Now, I will acquiesce a little bit here to Ana and the point that she made that, you know what, yes, you've got to compete in the job market, but we're talking about entry-level positions at McDonald's. I don't know how much learning Spanish has to deal with it, because shouldn't they be speaking English in the McDonald's? Or are they only speaking Spanish? They're probably only speaking Spanish there. And for hiring just on the basis of ethnicity is racist in of itself and goes against hiring practices and policies and business practices as well, which you could get in trouble for and fined for. And so that's what they're talking about. And I guarantee you, in those locations, that even if somebody was bilingual and they applied, they wouldn't get the job, because of the racism that is being employed by many Hispanics across the board, because they are racist, because they are bigoted against other minority communities, especially against blacks. And that is true. So just because you go ahead and you learn that job, Spanish, as a second language, isn't going to guarantee you. But absolutely, to learn another language will obviously be a nice tool in your tool belt as you proceed into the job market. No doubt about that.
We only have an hour, and not only is the hootenanny going on cutting into time, but if you would spend more time making arguments and not characterizing me, we'd have way more time.
Okay. So you started the last one. You're going to start.
All right. So anyways, that just ended on that where Anne's a little backhanded, feather glove treatment towards Ana and whatever. So in this segment here, I think they both got their points across. I think Anne came across basically to say, look, it's not racism that's driving this. It has nothing to do with that. It's the fact that you have not racism coming at least from Americans or white Americans, predominantly European Americans that have been here for sometimes generations. But the racism that's being exhibited is coming from these huge droves of illegal aliens, primarily from Mexico and south of the border, and Latin America, whatever, that are coming here, that are causing that they're the ones that are being racially insensitive to blacks and to other minorities over here. So anyways, we appreciate you taking the time to watch. Let us know what you think. Who do you think won this debate? Was it a draw? Comments below, would love that. You've been watching the Dr. Nasir Shaikh Show. I've been your guest host. My name is Dr. Nasir. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. Like, share, and follow us. I'll leave you with my final thought, which is, when you're right, you're right. And when you're left, you're wrong. We'll see you again next time, folks. Take care and stay safe.